people residing in Asia and the Pacific who said, we need a network that brings Asian perspectives. And we didn't exclude, obviously, people who are not born in Asia, but people who are living and working in Asia. So we are very delighted that he has agreed again, after a long COVID break, to deliver the closing remarks. And so please give him a cheer up, because he doesn't like to do closing remarks as much. His energy level is rather during the day and not when the sun is going down. So I want to hear really a lot of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Sohail Inayatullah. Otherwise, we let it rain.
Thanks so much. It's okay. Slowly. Okay. So the two sides for me growing up would be my mother, who always said, trust in Allah, but tie your camel. And then from my father's side is, never show up at a meeting without a stage theory. He was a social scientist, and that was his contribution to our life. So I want to now do the stage theory part. So again, the hypothesis, starting off from what Rio said on day one, what Zul said, what Yo said, is we've entered dramatic times, heterogeneous realities. These times are difficult, but because time is plastic, as during the French Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution, the American Revolution, the plasticity allows for greater agency, since the next step is highly unpredictable. That's the positive side. The difficult side, now going to the Asian episteme, is a loss of PRAMA. PRAMA means equilibrium. So when you lose PRAMA, things become difficult. Why is it being challenged? Because the weight of the present, the nature of technological change. When our balance gets lost, we go to the past. If you're walking, you lose your balance, you do this, what you remember. This suggests futures is actually about creating the new equilibrium. So it's not about going back to equilibrium, it's always creating the new equilibrium, what's called dynamic equilibrium. In this phase where change is dramatic, heterogeneous, we tend to want to go back. The last 10 years has been the return to racial purity, medical purity, nature purity, class purity. You can know the countries I'm talking about. Let's go back. As Rio said again, make X great. The challenge to going back is you're unable to attract to changing conditions. There's a wonderful piece on the history of medicine. And in that they ask, why did Ayurvedic science lose out to modern science? And the conclusion of this piece was Ayurvedic science met the needs of South Asians, but they were afraid of injections. They're afraid the injection was foreign and they were about purity. And thus they were unable to adapt as pandemics came to South Asia. My grandmother, there were 8 of them, and she told me all 7 died from smallpox but her. So our memory in South Asia is, of course, how westernized medicine saved many. But why did Ayurvedic lose when it was doing really well? Again, it was unable to maintain an equilibrium. So choice 1 is to go back. I've suggested that doesn't work. Choice 2 is what many prefer. Let's keep the present continued, business as usual, continued growth in data's language. But we know very well in terms of global inequity, this too creates a situation where equilibrium cannot be maintained because of AI, inequity, gender inequity, climate change, dysfunctionality of the nation state, and the inner revolution many of us spoke about, our search for meaning, spirituality, and well-being. The current system cannot resolve these 6 challenges. It can barely resolve 1, but it can't resolve 6. Given that, what do we do? Now, what's worse is our inner equilibrium is also lost. It's not just the external world, but our balance inside ourselves, it's also lost. So now we face a situation where the external world cannot go back, even though it tries quite desperately, to nationalism, racism, patriarchism, and we can't stay in the current state of affairs because the contradictions, using Galton's terms, are too extreme and getting more extreme. So this leads us again to creative destruction. Will it be destructive destruction, or as Schumpeter says, a creative destruction which creates the next Kondratyov wave, which keeps the system going another 50, 60 years? We can debate that. But clearly, it is a period of quite dramatic destruction. The hope, of course, is a spiral future, where, as Sesh talked about but didn't finish, for good reasons, is evolution now becomes conscious. If Darwinian evolution was survival of the fittest, this is now humans guiding evolution, meaning the attraction of the great, the better society, the push of the present. We're wisely saying evolution is happening. It's not going to be stopped because you don't like AI. That game is way over. That's over now. The issue is, how do we wisely use AI? I was running a workshop in a session in Australia. Australia banned ChatGPT. Luckily, we got the 50 heads of curriculum in Australia, and we were very clear at the end of the day, AI will amplify inequity. Let's work on equity. AI will amplify racist algorithms and sexist algorithms. Let's change that. So there's issues, but let's design the algorithms based on our vision of the future, not say, no, I don't like AI. That game is, I mean, we did a paper for the Hawaii Justice System in 1982 on AI and courts. When the judges got it, they go, this is very interesting, but why are you giving this to us? Of course, we were 40 years too late, but early, but that's part of our work. So the goal I'm suggesting here is dynamic equilibrium as a model. So this means there's no place we stop. There's no destination for us to arrive. We are not the socialist utopians of the 19th century who had an imagination and says, once we reach there, we're over. If you know Ashish Nandi's work, today's utopia is tomorrow's nightmare. Because utopia built in is a perfect society, meaning we must get rid of those who are imperfect. So we don't want utopias as the socialists of the 19th century. This is a stage where we don't stop moving. Of course we take pauses. There's periods of rest to consolidate past. So what does this mean for future studies? So let me now, remembering my own father and his stage theory, well, stage 1 is you do a workshop, people get excited, but nothing happens. They go back to old roles, but no one trusts the board anymore. They got excited, but nothing changed Monday morning. And now everyone hates the board and the CEO. It's called future washing. And with the rise of the new discipline called strategic foresight, the main entrance point to success is to do strategic foresight. Please don't. The second thing is, well, you basically do this, but because there's no trust, the best leave. I've had too many workshops on day 2. The best bank managers, engineers come up to me and say, this is amazing. I said, great, talk to your chair and the CEO. They go, no, he's not going to implement. We're leaving tomorrow morning and starting our own company. I was working with ANZ Bank, and it was such a great workshop. Then afterwards, the senior managers came up to me and they said, we're pretty sure we're going to implement, but if we don't, this is too good for us to stay. So they get excited, they get inspired, futures leads to innovation, but now the system is in disequilibrium. Either it becomes creative and creates the new equilibrium, or it goes backward. If you decide to go backward, the smartest will leave. Real, as you know, left UNESCO, so that's a case study. The third is you start this new vision. People get excited, and then during the workshop, they go backwards. I had this amazing experience with the country's National Mental Health Association. By day 2, we had come up with this new vision using AI to get early warning signals to protect children and teenagers through a whole range of methods. So it was early warning to stop schizophrenia, etc. Everyone got on board. They said, this will help us to make a difference. And then at noon on the second day, people said, oh yeah, but we're just a little NGO. Why should we do all this? Let's just go back to what we do. And then we ran the SARKAR game. Many of you have played it. Group 1 gets guns, second group gets books, third group gets money, fourth group gets tools. You play a game and you see what happens. And the goal is to create a successful, innovative culture civilization. As the game starts, within 5 seconds, Susie, a mental health caseworker, picks up a plastic gun and shoots everyone in the room. And then we just stare at Susie. And I was scared. And then we do the next method. And the chair of the board says, Sohail, we are not going to do the next method. Susie just killed everyone in the room. We need to unpack this. So now I feel a bit anxious. I go, Susie, the word on the street is you're a sociopath. In fact, I think they're right. What's going on for you? You didn't follow the instructions. You didn't try to create a good society. You just picked up a gun, killed everyone in the room. And so now here's the moment. And she goes, she stands up, she says, I am the angel of light. I am the angel of mercy. I bring truth where there is none. And we're all looking at Susan. We know this is, many people in the room have lived experience. This is, it's lived experience, so it's who's not, people with mental issues were in the room. This is real futures work. And she says, I know the board went this far, and I know from their last half hour, they have no intention to implement. We're just going to go back to what we've always done. I'd rather everyone be dead than fail again. And so this was the moment. So unless you find a way to keep it going, the best will leave or will kill you metaphorically. So now every group I say, if you're going to do foresight and futures, there's a risk assessment here. You must be authentic. You must intend to do this. Like I love what Tanshri Zul does at USM and now IIUM. It starts and he doesn't leave after one day. I mean, he's still there. So this is me, no, I'm committed. This is going to work. The fourth thing that happens once you've done all those, often there can be a coup d'etat in the organization institution. We ran this wonderful project on disability futures. The group, people in the room didn't have any clarity about visions of the future or scenarios. By the end of the intervention, they actually were very clear that there were two models, a legalistic model where you lobby for laws to protect the disabled, and a social justice model where it's not about laws, it's about the culture of how we see disability and inclusion. And suddenly the lawyers understood, oh my God, these lefty weirdos social justice people are about to take over. So they quickly had a coup and took over. And the social justice people were too slow, they lost and left the organization. So the disequilibrium created a complex adaptive system, and the lawyers were much smarter here. So you have to build in, there's going to be a change, be ready for the coup. And if you want to be the winner, I mean, my view, be the inclusive one, make sure you get the result you want. This can also transform if someone feels left out and they sense they won't have a role in the near future. With this one large organization, one vice president took our 4-day course, very committed to futures, wanted to make a difference. We got them together for a day. The other vice president looked anxious. At 10 a.m., she started to insult us. By 3:30, she was almost swearing at us. Earlier, we had asked them, what's your narrative about the future? And they said, we're Cinderella waiting for Prince Charming. I said, what does Prince Charming give you besides the kiss? They say, kiss is government funding. So this became very clear. So the other, then finally I was feeling anxious. I get anxious when people confront me. I'm not so good. And I said, what's going on for you? And she looked at me and she said, can't you tell? And now I'm doubly nervous. And I said, who are you? And she goes, I am the wicked stepsister. And this is in a serious meeting about quantitative forecasting of new products and skills and innovation. And suddenly she's the wicked stepsister. And I looked at her and full of anxiety, I said, thank you, next. Of course I messed up. I should have said, what's the better narrative for you that aligns with transforming Cinderella, that keeps us going on our journey? It could have been, as you can already think, the fairy godmother. Or Shaquille, what else could it have been? You're pretty quick at this. Wicked stepsister to fairy godmother, or what else? Well, be the mice. Mice are strong, can do many things, except this vice president wanted everyone to look at her. No one looks at the mice. But you know, you're right, that's a good one. She wanted to be Cinderella and was worried. So the project ended at 5 p.m. The CEO said, best thing ever, we're going to go with this. And of course I knew, no, it was over at 5. The wicked stepsister went in, killed the CEO by 6 p.m. and took over. The other vice president who loved it was got rid of. So yes, be very clear as you go through this process, how do you align the personal narrative with the new collective vision? So people find a role in the future, otherwise they'll come back at you. Find them a new role. As equilibrium goes disequilibrium, the system's complex, everyone needs a purpose as the university, etc. changes. So this is, of course, my partner Ivana's work. When it goes to the conflict situation, is it my way or the highway? Is it their way, or can we create an our way? So this is using the future to resolve the conflicts in real time. So as much as possible in all our interventions, we ensure there's a conflict transformation process in the workshop so there's no surprises on Monday morning. Now, the parts I really enjoy is when the aliens merge with the humans. So with Australia Federal Police, Interpol, Biosecurity Australia, Department of Agriculture and Fisheries Forestry, we do the visioning, we do the CLA, we do the scenarios, and it becomes part of the strategic plan. They get very happy, more people get trained, the virus of foresight innovation spreads everywhere. They can see the results, it's working, let's get more, let's get more. And commissioner after commissioner says, okay, this is good stuff, let's keep this growing. Now, of course, there's pendulums back and forth. We all know that, right? One vice chancellor in this room, I won't mention who he is, but he knows who he is. When he left the university, the accountants took over. Now, hink, wink, wink. You know, this person took it very progressive. Of course, the accountants came back and said, no, let's go back to the previous system. So once you understand that, you can play in this. I finished some project with Queensland Crime and Corruption Commission. And we became very clear, ChatGPT is heaven for organized crime. Is that we quickly need to develop responses to organized crime, so that's now central to their strategic plan. We quickly came up with what are the new crime categories? What about greenwashing? They suspect greenwashing will be one of the biggest crimes in Australia now. It's not a crime yet, but it will be. So we're anticipating new crimes, and now they build the future's work into their 5-year plan. So as people are aligned, they have a focus, everyone knows what to do, and they feel alert, they feel futures proof. It's a good way forward. As anyone who knows me will say, yeah, but you have no idea how to do 5-year plans. That's true. So I'm not good at it, but some people are. I always find people who are good at it. So when I do a Futures Day, I always ask the group or Futures Week, make sure The planners, KPMG, PwC, they can come in and make it official for you so you get funding. The eighth, of course, you heard the ADB stuff. That becomes a cycle of innovation where it spreads and spreads. People get aware of their inner story, their metaphors. Of course, there's difficulties, but now you've built in the difficulties, you've built in the narratives, and you create different viruses and you experiment. There's many people doing that. I was most happy 7 years ago when we were discussing this with Joost. It was the infrastructure bank. Discussions moved to climate bank, then gender bank, and of course ADB has issued the world's first gender bonds. Gender bonds are the private sector where they use the bonds to help unemployed females, so it's got a green bank writ all over it. So that's very clever. So it's actually using foresight futures in ways that make a difference. I'm not saying this is causative. Remember, I'm saying correlation here. I'm not saying that futures intervention led to this, but clearly it was part of the ecology of interventions that led to successful change. I would never say it was X led to Y. I mean, that's 20th century social science is good, but all of us know it's multiple variables interacting in complex ways. Once you do this well, then you're asking yourself, what's the next project? So you've achieved some innovation, but you're not, again, going back to the old equilibrium. You're saying, what's next, what's next? I remember we were working with this company 15 years ago, 13 years ago, and they said, well, we sell a drink. And I said, well, that drink by 2040 will be seen as cancerous. And slowly the CEO figured it out, and she moved, and now 50% of her product comes from healthier, 50% of her revenue comes from healthier products. So that's a slow, natural transition. Year 3, if you read Wall Street Journal, they would tell you that company was pummeled by the markets, saying the money is in junk and sugar. Sell that. Why do you want to go healthier? And she said, because the purpose of a good corporation is to make a difference in the world. She said, I know I have to sell junk, but I also have to change the world. Let me do this over 30 years. So I think her story is quite amazing. When it really works, then it jumps boundaries. I remember I was in 1981 an intern at the Hawaii Judiciary, and my professor Jim Nader got us a 6-month gig, and I stayed for 10 years. It was like, you know, the person who comes for dinner and never leaves. So I never left. And after 10 years of doing futures there, in the beginning it made no sense to anyone. Then finally the head lobbyist said, you know, our judges are underpaid. What can you do about it? I said, what can I do about it? What do I know? So I said, he just said, you figure it out. So since I was trained in quantitative analysis, I managed to develop a chart which showed that Hawaii judges had the highest standard of living and the lowest salaries. And I did a scattergram, a 2-by-2 correlation. The lobbyists took it to the Senate, and the Senate raised their salaries. And the judges came back to me, you can do what you want for the next few years now. So that's when we started to write about the rights of robots, mediation, meditation, the rise of the Pacific. We just had fun. Eventually, in 10 years, 32 state courts developed judicial commissions. Those judicial commissions influenced Singapore. The subordinate courts, Richard Magnus developed futures work there, which dramatically influenced Singapore's futures program. So it starts out a very simple speech by Jim Nader in 1975, where he had a $350,000 budget to run a futures conference for judges. He focused on problem solving, if you know Jim's speech. At the end of the 3 days, they identified the biggest issue the legal system would face. It was, of course, access to parking spaces. He said, oh my God, I just spent $350,000 in 1975 money on parking. He said, I have to do something else. Thus, emerging issues analysis, scenarios, futures. So 32 state courts developed it, Singapore courts developed it, and so you can't predict where your project will go. In my case, after 10 years, I loved it, it was fantastic. And then I got a letter from the Chief Justice. He said, by the way, thank you for your 10 years. Hope you have a good life. And I was like, wait, what just happened? I said, well, you succeeded. What more should we do here? So this is in terms of our own work of futures, figuring out who are you in this journey. Is it, what does success count for you? What is it that you're really trying to do? So in my work, when Real approached and said, there's a possibility of UNESCO chair, I said, okay, well, what's a good metaphor for it? Because to me, I think in terms of data, but also in terms of story. And for me, when I sat down, I said, aha, when I was 6 and we moved to Indiana, I read about this weird guy called Johnny Appleseed. And if you read about him in Wikipedia, he's very strange. But the thing he did is he planted apple seeds all over the east coast of the US. And those apple seeds ended up greening the east coast. And so I thought, okay, that's a really good metaphor, planting seeds. But that's phase 1 in your career, right? And it became very clear, phase 2 was working with Interpol, AFP, all these organizations, which is growing the trees, finding clients you like and nurturing them over and over with suggestions and working with them and doing the hard stuff. And phase 3 in the application UNESCO was, no, for the Asia Pacific, we want to create a forest of foresight. I think the Asia Pacific sensibility is we don't need to choose which tree is the best, right? We're not about doing that. We're in a food court. If you like nasi lemak, have nasi lemak. If you like beef rendang, have beef rendang. If you like pizza, have that. This is not about a ranking system of the best diet. This is about a forest of foresight, a forest of futures where everyone grows and the entire system moves to a new equilibrium. And then, of course, the sun sets, and then it rises. And sometimes in the difficulty, when the New Age people say every day is a fresh start, that picture says it all. It's not always the best fresh start. So this is getting, again, very clear on where you wish to go, how you wish to use futures, what your own inner story is. I've shared mine, and I think for me, moving away the alien narrative was, again, from my mother's view, mythopoetic. From the scientific view, I'm still impressed with Prigogine. When a complex system is far from equilibrium, small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos have the capacity to shift the entire system to a higher order. Of course, none of us know for sure if we can move the system to a Gaian, planetary, green, gender equilibrium, global polity system. But clearly, part of being a futures person is we're all invested in creating, as Zul said in the beginning, a wise society. This means none of us stop. We just keep on going and do our best. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Prof. Sile. As we conclude this enriching conference, we have one final session before we bid farewell. Please welcome Tan Sri Zul, accompanied by Prof. Zainal, for presentation of certificates of appreciation to our strategic partners, keynote speakers, and panelists. Tan Sri, want to say something?
By the way, it worked.
Tan Sri, you want to say? All right. Oh, by the way, I would like to invite Tan Sri Zul for a few words first.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, greeting of peace. I thought after a fantastic 2 days meeting, I should say something to acknowledge all the things that you have done. It's quite difficult to talk after Sohail, but let me just recap my relationship with him maybe almost 20 years ago, when I was asked to be the Vice Chancellor of a university in the north of Malaysia, University of Science Malaysia. A question that I asked then, how does a university in the 21st century differ from the 20th century differ from the 21st century? Looking for the answers, and finally the answer came in 2005. I was invited to a conference in Luxembourg, the Universities of Tomorrow. So I went in, never been to Luxembourg, so cold and everything else, but I met an alien, and that alien is Sohail. He talked about scenario plan. I've never heard of scenario plan before. I still remember it was February 2005 Immediately after his talk, I don't know whether you recall, I said, can you come to my university? I want to learn about scenario plan so that we can change into the 21st century university. So we decided in May he came, and he spent no more than 3 weeks with us. 30% learning about all those things that we have learned from what you call Suhail has delivered. And we have done 6 scenarios. First scenario is a dead university scenario. You don't do anything, you'll be out of the picture. And there are many other scenarios, but one of the scenarios that waked up was sustainability scenario, the sustainability-led university. 2005, I think nobody talks about sustainability, at least at the university in our region at least. But we picked that, we thought that is one that would move the university forward. To cut the story short, it was a competition, the bidding from Ministry of Higher Education to transform the university of tomorrow. And we put the sustainability model as, and we got what we call the APEX University. APEX stands for Accelerated Program for Excellence. And this is the only university in the country that sustained that since 2005 until now. And the last ranking in the world, this university, USM, is the 4th best in the world as far as sustainability is concerned. So it all belongs to Suhail. If he doesn't put that idea to us, we will not be able to. So I am bought into this. I am bought into this as far as sustainability is concerned, as far as futures is concerned. Then I moved on, and later on I went to another university, the University, Islamic Science University, which is in the center of Kuala Lumpur. And I called in Suhail again. We want to change this university also. So we created what we call the balance, the Mizan Research Center, that talks about the balance, exactly what it is. And it's about working with the environments and the people in the rural areas to create a kind of a balance between the urban and the rural and all the things that needs to be balanced as far as the university is concerned. Again, to cut the story short, we created a center, and that center, beginning in November, will be the headquarters of the Asian Center as far as that research is concerned, and it is hosted by another UNESCO chair on community-based research, which is based in the University of Victoria, Canada. So there's another winning as far as sustainability is concerned in the context of the futures. Now I am in this university, International Islamic University. Again, you know that Suhail is very much into this, and we have seen the futures of 2040 of IIUM. We don't know where we're going to go, but given the 2 lessons that I've got, I am quite confident that this university will also chalk the step into another thing. 2 things I will promise you as far as this is concerned. One is we are given the permission to create an opportunity for the Rohingyas to come into our university. For a long time, there are about 250,000 Rohingyas in this country. No visa with all sorts of problems. Alhamdulillah, we have given funding. We're going to take the first 100 Rohingyas into the university and into our schools, and this will be, hopefully, the first step into moving the refugees in a very dignified way as far as education is concerned. And this is a lesson learned by the university in 1992, when there was the Bosnian War, if you remember, and we brought in about 100 Bosnian students into the university. They graduated after 4 years. Now, if you go to Bosnia, many of the higher-ranking positions are from the alumni of the university. We've saved a country, we've saved a group of people, and we are hoping to repeat this with the Rohingyas. The second thing that we're going to do, inshallah, is to redefine what university is all about. We are now working with the Common University project. In other words, what is a new university as far as the future is concerned? We've got 5 ideas. One, it has to be transdisciplinary. A science university, a technology university, an arts university on its own will not work. We want to see how transdisciplinary is this university. The moment there are more transdisciplinary, a lot interchanges of staff and disciplines, I think that university will survive for the future. The second thing he wants to say, how much committed are they to the community around it? As a university is successful, is the community around them successful? As IIUM becomes one of the best in the world, is our community also one of the best in the world? If it's not, then the university is a failure. So how do you link between these two? How do the exchange of knowledge and wisdom goes into these two? The third one is how sustainable is the university and the community. In other words, as we walk out of the community that we have developed, can they sustain on their own? Or do they have to depend on somebody else for survival? Because the pandemic tells us exactly you need to be very self-sufficient as you move along. How do you build that resiliency in our community and our university at the same time? The fourth is what we call responsible research. The word responsible for us is basically when you do your research, are the community involved from day one until the end? In other words, they will be the one who also help you in designing the projects and tell exactly what their needs are, and they will be the final evaluator whether they were successful or not. It doesn't matter whether they are a first-tier journal, second-tier journal. It is not important. It is matter whether they benefit from our research. If they benefited from our research, in other words, we are successful in that particular sense. And the last is, of course, very much this kind of thing. How do you collaborate with all of you? Learn from you, and so that we can make sure that what we do is sustainable beyond us. So hopefully, by next year, if we meet again, we'll be able to tell you the kind of stories that hopefully they will have in the last two experiences with Sohail. So I would like to thank Sohail in particular for giving us this confidence, and I think all of you know who Sohail is, and I hope this will be the move forward in trying to grapple and make sure that the future is really sustainable and all of us can be living in what we call a very peaceful, harmonious, and a balanced society. So on that note, I would like to thank all of you for coming here, I think from far and near, sharing your experiences. Every bit that we have learned from you, we would like to thank you, and we hope this APFN will go on for whatever time it is, and keep on contributing to what we need to sustain education, because I think the education system now is all broken. From my point of view, it's all broken. We need to rebuild it, and I hope all of us can build this together. So thank you very much. Have a nice trip home, have a safe one, and keep in touch forever, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
We will now invite strategic partners for presentation of certificates of appreciation. First of all, International Youth Centre, Kuala Lumpur. Can we have any representative? Yes. Then Meta Future. Meta Future. Next, the Pacific Community. Next, Tam Kang University's Department of Education and Futures Design and Center for Futures Intelligence and Research. Next, the Change Initiative. Malaysian Industry Government Group for High Technology, MIGHT. Ministry of Higher Education, Malaysia. Any representative from MOHI? No, yeah? All right. Moving on, for our panelists, please welcome Emily Sharp, Crystal Griffiths, Ahmad Faris Ismail, Ora On Pocharen, Anissa Abdullah, Shanita Visuvanathan. Ma'an Fahmi Rashid Al-Khatib. Abdul Wahid Jalal Nuri. Luke Tay. Edward Nidbalski. Sherman Cruz. Freddie Julkanine. Seong Woon Park. Maya Van Limpert. Christina Hazelman. Diana Cheong. Puresh Chaudhry. Rushdi Rahim. Elisha Nasruddin. For our keynote speakers, Vicky Sofian, Sarah McCartney, Muhammad Sharif Akbar, Rial Miller, Senator Pia Cayetano, Ivana Milojevic, Ode Rashid Al-Jayusi, Rus Alinda Alias, Sohail Inayatullah, last but not least, Jos Wagner. And from Prof. Zainal to Tan Sri Zulkifli Abdul Razak. Thank you, Tan Sri and Prof. Zainal. For presenters and participants, we will be sending e-certificates to you via email. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll hand over the floor to Prof. Zainal.
Good afternoon, everyone. The last one before Jos. Yeah. When we were asked to handle this conference, I don't know that I've committed to something that is really demanding. Yeah. I was exposed to future studies, but then I realized that it's not just about the usual conference that we've been organizing a lot, at the center, but then it turned out to be like very interesting an experience that we go through, and we really thank you APFN for trusting us to run this thing, because I remember, Sohail was referring to Tan Sri Zul as a super alien. Yeah? He keep on asking us to do quite interesting jobs that we are being assigned to do. Alhamdulillah, I hope that everyone is happy with the conference, satisfied with the conference. If the remotes, so I hope it's just 1% of it, apart from the remote, for making this conference a successful one, I would like to thank, firstly, to the speakers who have came here on their own expenses and their own contributions to ensure the agenda proceed. And also, of course, the participants for coming in. And also participants who donated as well. Thank you so much for the contributions. It helped us a lot. And as usual, all these things is not possible without the team that I would like to call each and every one to the front. Those behind the scene, on the stage, to come to the front. And I would like to, if there is one person, I would like to acknowledge, and everyone to acknowledge Idayu for leading it. And if I can ask them, Idayu and your team, and I mean our team and others, to come up, Savir and everyone, all the students who are together, come to the front and take picture and pass the, They would like to know who's behind the scene as well, who's been helping them a lot, making the, come Idayu, come to the front. All the committees, all the team, including the visual team as well, who has been helping a lot, the visual team. If you can come to the front and let them know, and we'd like to acknowledge your contributions. So these are the people, everyone that has been helping us, that's been the one in making this a successful one. So we would like to give another round of thank you to this great contribution that are given to us. Thank you very much. Okay. And last one, yes. I hope, thank you very much. We'll have another celebrations back in the university. From my side, I would hopefully that we have done and met the expectations of APFN in running the conference. So for that, I pass back to APFN, to Jos.
Okay, first of all, please give a big hand to Dr. Zainer. And everybody who has organized the conference in the room knows what these people are going through, and they are the most happy people, that in a few moments we're going to give the gong and it's all over and you're all leaving, hopefully, so that they can actually relax and go back to their friends and families who wonder what is this APFN that keeps us away from spending time with our loved ones. Okay, before I talk too much, we're going to finish with handing over the gong. And many of you already were overhearing the conversations. We always look for a victim or volunteer to organize the next APFN. The next APFN is APFN 10. Sounds like we need to celebrate a little bit. So, and we already know where we want to go for APFN 11. So maybe we go backwards, or we go first in the future. So we have the pleasure to announce. Not yet. So don't give the gong into the future.
Okay.
So the hosts for 2025 are going to be the Philippines. Can all the Filipino colleagues stand up? So please take note of our hosts. There is no pressure, but They are promoting since long time the slogan, "It's more fun in the Philippines." We have high expectations, no pressure. Most likely it's going to be Manila, and it's going to be really an APFN community, so the community of futurists have to work together. Of course, APFN doesn't care about politics. We don't know if all the organizations like each other, but you have to do it together, okay? So we are looking forward to coming in 2025 to Manila most likely, right? And hope to see many of you at APFN 2024. So you can exchange notes with us. Secondly, we don't know yet when, but we wanted to announce that the Pacific, of course, it's not so easy for some of us to travel so far. However, the Pacific will also host a special APFN event in the future. You know, sometimes we take the long perspective. And, but they have already said they want to do that, and of course, we're all going to be invited to join them. And it will be probably strategically, most likely, all the rights reserved to be in Fiji, or most likely Fiji. So states start saving some money if you don't have any funding. You have to travel to Fiji, to Manila, and now we are coming to the final announcement. So the next APFN will be again back on popular demand, and I would like to one colleague to come and join me then here to do the official handover instead of me. It's going to be in Bangkok. And already we have made new friends, the National Innovation Agency, the Organization for Humanitarian Dialogue, I don't have the correct name, but also old friends will also join. We also try to make it a community spirit thing, and that's why I want officially Dr. Zainal to hand over the gong, which has been used since 2018, I think, to hand over to Professor Oraon on behalf of the steering committee of APFN. I think you saw me enough, so. Yeah, but you are part of the steering committee. Don't hit Oraon, we still need her. So Oraon has now the gong, but this is not the final gong of the conference, but you can practice one time. Okay. So you see you in Bangkok, and we have the 5S. We have sun, we have sport, we have sea, we have many reasons. Spicy som tam. So many reasons. That's the papaya salad. Better practice now. Yeah. If you can't eat spicy food, you know. So we're going to see you most likely in Bangkok. We were discussing actually, and I know some of you want to go to Chiang Mai. Even I want to go to Chiang Mai. But the issue is, when we go to Chiang Mai, then the whole Thai ecosystem has to travel with a few exceptions as well. And then they have to look for funding. Every UN agency and so on, they have to look for getting leave, getting a travel permission, getting funding. So we decided to do it in Bangkok. However, there might be a side program. We will discuss it in Chiang Mai afterwards. So post-conference vacation, vegan food for Sohail, I don't know. Okay? So last but not least, I think we're coming to the end, right? And we started with a gong, we finished with a gong, and usually I take in any conference the liberty, because it's my gong, to decide without further consultation who to gong, but I consulted some people, and it's not going to Professor Ora. I think we all agree the person who should gong, because she worked day and night. Please, Idayo, give us a pleasure to finish on behalf of your team. There are Noida and many others who worked a lot, but yeah, so please come here. And so officially this is going to close APFN 9. See you all in Bangkok. Terima kasih. Now, informal hugging, selfies, everything.
All right, Yos, a very quick one, Yos. A very quick one. Before we end, let us close our conference with Tasbih Kafaraha and Surah Al-As.